Welcome to Strip Coverlet, where we squeeze the bigger picture out of literature. I'm Adrian Fort, and we are here for another poetry discussion, which will take place in two separate playlists here on the channel. Number one, obviously, being the poetry discussion playlist, a playlist growing ever nearer 400 videos strong. But number two, the Pablo Neruda playlist, a playlist which is growing very quickly as I attempt to keep making daily uploads. But guys, I'm going to be real honest with you. I'm getting my butt kicked right now by health. I have been sick for 4 months now. So for whatever that is worth, it's what it's worth. But we are here for a poem titled Fable of the Mermaid and the Drunks. And this is a poem that I had set out expecting to be very Billy Collins-esque. There are shades of Pablo Neruda through Billy Collins. I can't stand Billy Collins. Can't really stomach Billy Collins. And in my opinion, you can see the sort of inspiration from Pablo Neruda seep through Billy Collins. Ode to My Socks, Ode to Socks. I can't remember the exact title of that one. That was one that I think had definitely influenced Billy Collins on some level. This poem is not that. This poem is really with the dark psychology, with the possible twist at the end, which is maybe not a twist as much as it is what you kind of expect to see the whole time. Is much more, this poem, much more Charles Bukowski-esque than it is anything from Billy Collins. So I wanted to read this poem, bring this poem to the channel, because, wow, this might be my favorite poem from Neruda thus far. Fable of the Mermaid and the Drunks. All those men were there inside when she came in, totally naked. They had been drinking. They began to spit. Newly come from the river, she knew nothing. She was a mermaid who had lost her way. The insults flowed down her gleaming flesh. Obscenities drown her golden breasts. Not knowing tears, she did not weep tears. Not knowing clothes, she did not have clothes. They blackened her with burnt corks and cigarette stubs, and rolled around laughing on the tavern floor. She did not speak because she had no speech. Her eyes were the color of distant love. Her twin arms were made of white topaz. Her lips moved silent in a choral light. And suddenly she went out that door, entering the river. She was cleaned, shining like the white stone in the rain. And without looking back, she swam again, swam towards emptiness, swam towards death. Now, take that poem for what it is. Take that poem for the level that you are accepting that poem. Take that poem at face value on a first read through. I want to ask you a question. I want to ask you a simple question here. Do you think, do you believe this is the first time this mermaid has done this? I will challenge you and posit that it is not. I will challenge you and say that she knew maybe not the bar, but she knew what she was doing. We're going to get to this. But I want you to allow me a second reading here, and I want you to embark on this reading with the interpretation that the mermaid might not know these people, that the mermaid might not know this bar, but the mermaid knows what a bar is. The mermaid knows what happens therein. Because all of the things that happen to the mermaid here, they do not need interpretation. She does not know the language. That's fine. She doesn't know the words. That's okay. You can recognize expressions on someone's face no matter what language they are speaking. You can understand when someone is blackening you with burnt corks and cigarette stubs, regardless of the words that may pass through their lips. So grant me this second reading of this poem. While grant me a second reading of this poem, believing that this mermaid knows what she's doing. Fable of the Mermaid and the Drunks. All those men were there inside when she came in totally naked. They had been drinking, they began to spit. Newly come from the river, she knew nothing. She was a mermaid who had lost her way. The insults flowed down her gleaming flesh. Obscenities drown her golden breasts. Not knowing tears, she did not weep tears. Not knowing clothes, she did not have clothes. They blackened her with burnt corks and cigarette stubs and rolled around laughing on the tavern floor. She did not speak because she had no speech. Her eyes were the color of distant love. Her twin arms were made of white topaz. Her lips moved silent in a choral light, and suddenly she went out by that door. Entering the river, she was cleaned, shining like like a white stone in the rain. And without looking back, she swam again, swam towards emptiness, swam towards death. If we assume that this mermaid knows what she's doing, we are able to take a step back and say, she's doing this on purpose. There's something about this that she needs, right? There's something about this that is calling to her. I have a couple of psychology terms on the screen now. Trauma bonding. In cases where individuals have experienced trauma or abuse, they may develop an unhealthy attachment to their abuser or seek out similar relationships due to familiarity or a warped sense of love and security. Learned helplessness. This concept suggests that individuals who have repeatedly experienced negative outcomes may come to believe they have no control over their circumstances, leading them to accept or even seek out negative situations. So first off, we need not accept that the mermaid is a literal mermaid, right? This is a metaphor. This is a metaphor for a woman who is obviously attractive. That's why you pick a mermaid. And who perhaps uses her attraction to get attention which is negative attention. The type of negative attention that she feels is the only type of attention she deserves. Still, attention feels good. Attention feels necessary. Attention feels right. And if you are in that learned helplessness state, if you are in some type of traumatic bonding with that attention, abuse at some level of life, going out and seeking these types of hostile environments where you will get the attention and you will be made to feel bad for it is second nature to people who have been in those situations, people who have gone through those things, people who suffer that traumatic bonding that is inside of them and itches them almost like an addiction. People who need that negativity, people who need that type of bad attention, people who need that type of judgment, castigation. That is what we have here from the metaphor of the mermaid. The drunks are just people who are acting emotionally, Alcohol inhibits you, it inebriates you, it makes you act on emotion rather than logic, rather than common sense, rather than those higher types of intelligence that we pride ourselves in having as human beings, as humans, as people, as civilization. What we have here is a metaphor for maybe the girl who always seeks out the bad boys. Why? Because dad abused her. Because dad knocked her around. So why shouldn't her boyfriend? It's the only way that she feels comfortable. Because dad gave her that negative attention, so she seeks out the men who will give her negative attention. Why? Because it seems right. That is what we have here in what is actually a very dark and pretty disturbing poem from Pablo Neruda. That's all I have for this poetry discussion. If you like or appreciate what it is that I do here, hitting the like button really does help me out, as it tells YouTube to share this video with other literature lovers. And if you find yourself here by chance but not design, literature is the only thing I talk about on the channel, dropping 4, 5, 6, 7, sometimes more videos every single week. But probably going to step back from that in a little bit once I get past National Poetry Month. So do not hold me to that schedule for the long term. But there will always be poetry on Mondays here on the channel, and other things, other short stories, novel read-alongs, etc. So I would love to have you back for the next one.